Today we're going to talk about my new book, what inspired it, why I'm excited about it, and why I'm also not actually 100% sure I want it to be my next book. Hey there, welcome back to the channel. If you're new, my name is Meghan Rogers. I'm an author and writer, and here on this channel we talk about books, writing, and life. And I'm really excited to share with you today some details about what might be my next book. And like I said in the intro, we are going to talk about why I'm not even sure I really want it to be. I do and I don't. It's a complicated situation. We're going to get into it. But first I want to tell you a little bit about it because like I said earlier in this channel, if you've missed it, I am the most excited about a project when I'm working on it. So that's really when I want to be sharing it with you. Now this book is, for all intents and purposes, finished, but for the sake of the timeline, for the sake of keeping you up to date, I still want to tell you about it so that you know what's going on over here. So for the sake of ease, I am just going to read the query letter for you to give you background on this book so you know what it's about. The working title for now, which I think should be the real title when it come out, when it comes out, if it comes out, we'll see. But the working title is Who's Lying at Emory High? Student journalist Chloe McAndrews has a passion for investigative journalism. So when classmate Dean Easton is arrested and expelled from Emory High School for a crime he claims he didn't commit, she can't help but get involved. When Chloe takes a closer look, she finds very little evidence to support Dean's expulsion. In fact, it appears more like someone actually may have been out to get him. When Chloe's barred from publishing her findings in the school paper, she starts detailing her investigation online. This gives her classmates and eventually students across the country an inside look at all the twists and turns of Dean's case. Before long, the investigation reveals Dean is a part of a much larger scandal and cover-up than Chloe had ever suspected. The closer she gets to the truth, the more her discoveries put her own future at risk. But that won't stop Chloe, because in a world where journalism is under fire and institutional corruption is at an all-time high, the truth and accountability has never been more important. So that is the premise of Who's Lying at Emory High. This book really took me by surprise. I was not planning on writing this. The inspiration from it really came from American Vandal, which is a Netflix series. If you are curious and want to check it out, I'm going to kind of get what I would say is the vibe of the book to a degree, which we'll get into. But the premise of American Vandal is there is a student named Dylan who was expelled from, I believe it's Hanover High, for vandalism, which we'll keep it at vandalism. You can go ahead and Google what the vandalism was. I don't know enough about YouTube's policies to know if I will get kicked off here for being specific. But so there was vandalism. And he was expelled. He swears he did not do this. He did not commit this crime. So someone who was in the school's journalism class, they have a morning show. He starts investigating. He makes a documentary on his investigation. So what you're getting in the show is Peter, it's the journalist. It's his documentary. So you're getting his investigation. So really you are watching the documentary. You're watching his experience. And I was not expecting to be as swept up by the show as I was. Like, I needed to get to the end. I needed to know who did it, if it was Dylan, if it was somebody else. The way it was structured was just so well done to me, and I needed to explore that further. So it was a little bit more of a mockumentary, like what you will see, like what they're investigating. There's a degree of the show that is absurd. It totally works for the show, but that wasn't what I wanted for my project. So I did want to explore more deeply like how I was made to care about this situation that, again, is really absurd. It's such a low stakes situation in a lot of ways, but it's also not. And I thought the show did a really good job of amplifying the stakes, and which is what I also tried to do in my project. There are some real parallels between like Chloe and Peter and Dean and Dylan, but mine is a little bit more serious because it was also, as much as it was inspired by American Vandal, the other aspect that really swept me away with American Vandal was like, I know these kids. I know the school. I know how this works. Both from my own high school experience where I was more of an AP and honors kid, like I ran in that circle, I had that perspective, which to me is Chloe, and it's a little bit of Peter too. But then years later, I went back to work at my high school and I got a much greater sense of the student body as a whole. So I have a good sense of the type of Dylan character and the Dean character that we have in my book. And I feel like I could really speak to the complete high school experience really well. But also, again, just to see, to be watching this show and recognizing people so clearly and to seeing how universal certain aspects of the high school experience are. This book also does have an element of activism to it, I would say. There are real issues that I experienced, that I witnessed, that we dig into in this book, which actually does lead me to my next point, which is why I loved writing this book. This book is nothing like I ever thought I would do. I am not really a contemporary writer. I don't see myself that way. I like fantasy, I like sci-fi, I like thrillers. I like something with a little bit of a twist to it, that we can take our real world issue and explore them through a different and more unique lens. I don't know why that is. I just like it. And I think a lot of people do. It gives us some really interesting parallels and just a really interesting lens to explore problems and growth and just experiences as a whole. So for me, as much as I actually do love reading and watching and experiencing contemporary stories, I never got quite a thrill out of the idea of creating them. That all changed with this book. The second layer of that, something else I never thought I would do, is to write so directly about a problem and multiple problems that I've experienced, I've witnessed in the education system. I will tell you, if you have a teacher that you loved, that was actually, was a good quality teacher, I promise you they are not paid enough and they are putting up with more shit than you know. That's kind of the bottom line, but there's a lot more layers to it that I do get into in this book. At least that's on the teacher side. But there's also stuff on the student side, the way that some students are pushed through and pushed around and overlooked, that we get into a little bit more specifically, while also getting into, I think, the power of student advocacy and student journalism. And that's the thing about Chloe, that I feel like she's overlooked a lot because she's just a kid. But there is a lot of power, there's a lot that students can do, and I don't think enough people pay attention and give credit to that. So we get to really watch so many different personalities and situations play out in a way that I think is really universal, but also not seen and acknowledged quite enough. And the last reason this book was so fun for me to write was that it has such a unique structure, which is also inspired by American Vandals. Like I mentioned early on, American Vandal is a documentary series where Peter is filming the investigation as it's happening. So I wanted to give the book kind of a similar feel. So in Chloe's case, she is posting her investigation as it's happening on social media. I really liked the idea that in a book, it's going to be a written account. And to me, Chloe's a writer. So she's going to write this down. She's going to document it in writing. So instead of having a video series that you're hearing about or a podcast that you're kind of getting the podcast episodes, but then also hearing about her investigation, I wanted you to get the investigation as Chloe is sharing it with the public. So that's what you experience in this book. It was so much fun to write. Again, it was such a unique perspective to come into a story from. And still, it makes me so happy to think about, because I will probably never write another book like this again. And it's just so fun. And there's a comment section that people from the outside get involved and send tips, and also have her investigating or asking to investigate some other issues that they're finding. So it was so much fun to write. The structure of it, I think, gives the book a really unique flair. It was just absolutely delightful to write, and I loved every minute of it. For the most part, let's be honest, if we're talking about writing, there are some moments I did not love, and actually I'm going to get into that more in the next video I make, where I share a little bit about the behind the scenes, the writing journey of this book. But just suffice to say, Chloe gets into things, she will not take no for an answer, and it leads her to some really interesting places that she did not envision. Again, there's so many different layers to this book that I love. There's the fun structure of it. There's the activism component to it, but also just the characters I really enjoyed writing. They're characters that you kind of to me, my goal in this was to be characters that you know these people. You went to high school with them, you go to high school with them, you know these people. Now, with all of that said, even with all of this love and excitement I have for this book, I'm actually not 100% sure I want it to be my next book. As much as I love it, it feels like it's from a different part of my life. When I wrote this book, I started in 2018, and again, we'll get more into the book's journey in the next video, but I was so emotionally attached to the story, like to the topics that I'm exploring, to the experiences both Chloe and Dean have, but then also just to the larger commentary on the education system as a whole. Having been in a high school, having worked in a high school, having worked so closely to kids and see them affected by these policies and issues, I just had so much emotional attachment to it. And it's not to say I don't now, but I'm just in a very different place and it doesn't have quite the same charge for me. But I still think it's so valuable. Like, that's the thing, when I go back and read this, even though I wrote the first draft of this book, and while there are aspects of it that has changed, the main points and structure and skeleton have not. I wrote this book first in 2018, and when I read it today, it's still so relevant. Like, things haven't changed all that much, that what I'm writing about, what I'm talking about is just still so relevant. So there is that part of me that does believe it deserves to be seen for my teachers, for kids like Chloe, for kids like Dean. Like, it deserves to be out there. But at the same time, what I'm working on now has me so much more excited, that's another video. I know I'm getting ahead of myself, but that's another video. But the book I'm working on now, it's an adult, it's fantasy. It's a little bit more where I'm at in my life now. And I can also see that from a strategic standpoint being the better book to kind of come back with as an author. Because it's an adult, so I'm breaking into a different market after such a long break, where Who's Lying at Emory High is a young adult, which is the market I was in previously. And I'm also just, again, at this point, I'm much more invested in the book I'm writing than this book that's finished. However, with that said, the book I'm writing now is not ready to go out on submission of any kind. So I am going to keep querying. Actually, I haven't done much for it. If you did not see previous videos, I'm looking for a new agent. So I've started querying this book kind of off and on for like the last year. I have not done it seriously. I've had other stuff going on. I moved. The first 2 videos kind of get into things on the channel if you want to go back and watch those. But I haven't gotten to it yet. I am going to get to things more intentionally. I am going to try to put this book out there a little bit more regularly, and hopefully we will get some bites. If not, maybe it'll come out in the future. I really can see it going either way. But hopefully you might want to read it now. Hopefully that can maybe help get someone interested in publishing it in the future. Yeah, I am still excited about it. I do think at some point I want it to be read. I'm just not sure if it'll be the next book. I'm not sure if the interest is there. I'm not sure if, in terms of like drumming up attention for it, if it's really the right time. But we'll see. It still has so much merit. It still has so much value. So I do think at some point I hope it will get released in some form, in some fashion. And I hope that you will want to read it when it does. But if you want to know more about this, if you want to know more about the behind the scenes writing process of it, be sure to stay tuned for the next video. That's all I have for you today. I hope you're having a wonderful day or night wherever you are in the world, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye.